To gain a true grasp of Bible prophecy, it's essential to familiarize yourself with the complete timeline of the Bible. Connecting just any verse to current events and declaring the impending end of the world is an oversimplification. Many teachings interpret prophetic events by citing scripture to predict the end, but they often misuse the verses. These verses they reference to predict future occurrences are actual events that have already transpired. If someone doesn't comprehend the verses they're utilizing, it's difficult to place any trust in any of their interpretations. So let's start by reading Matthew 24 verse 7. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. This is every preacher's go-to verse to sling around about the end times. Everyone will sit up when they hear these verses because they are unsure of the timeline and they have misplaced trust in the person presenting it. This verse is also written in Luke chapter 21 and in Mark chapter 13. But to grasp the significance of this verse and to communicate it correctly, it's important to invest time in researching the entire timeline and gaining a solid grasp of history. To accomplish that goal, let's go to the beginning of the chapter so we can be sure of what we are actually talking about. Matthew chapter 24 verse 1. And Yeshua went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. In this first verse, the disciples show Yeshua the temple and to show him how great the temple looked and how it was decorated with costly stones. This is the second temple that was built under Nehemiah and Ezra. Let's go to Ezra chapter 3 verse 10. And when the builders laid the foundation of the temple of the Most High, they set the priests in their apparel with trumpets, and the Levites, the son of Asaph, with cymbals, to praise the Most High, after the ordinances of David, king of Israel. They sang together by chorus in praising and giving thanks unto the Most High, because he is good, for his mercy endures forever toward Israel. And all the people shouted with a great shout, and when they praised the Most High, because the foundation of the house was laid. But many of the priests and Levites and the chief of the fathers, who were ancient men that had seen the first house, when the foundation of this house was laid before their eyes, wept with a loud voice, and many shouted aloud for joy, so that the people could not discern the noise of the shout of joy from the noise of the weeping of the people. For the people shouted with a loud shout, and the noise was heard from afar off. In Matthew, the disciples are expressing admiration for the temple's beauty. However, when we review the history of the construction of this temple, the elders of the temple who had witnessed Solomon's initial temple wept because this temple was inferior. And while those who were too young to have seen it cheered because they had nothing before and now had a temple. Life is all about perspective. The combined noise was so pronounced that distinguishing between the cries and the cheers was impossible. Verse 2. Speak now to Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, governor of Judah, and to Joshua, the son of Josedek, the high priest, and to the residue of the people, saying, Who is left among you that saw this house in her first glory? And how do you see it now? Is it not in your eyes in comparison as nothing? The Most High is speaking to those who saw the first temple and were tearful, acknowledging and directly speaking to their feelings. Verse 4. Yet now be strong, O Zerubbabel, saith the Most High, and be strong, O Joshua, the son of Josedek, the high priest, and be strong, all ye people of the land, saith the Most High, and work, for I am with you, saith the Most High of hosts. The Most High speaks to Zerubbabel, the governor, who really should be king, and Joshua, the high priest, and the whole nation of Israel, telling them to be strong and to work. Verse 5. According to the word that I covenanted with you when I came out of Egypt, so my spirit remaineth among you, fear ye not. For thus saith the Most High of hosts, Yet once, it is a little while, and I will shake the heavens and the earth and the sea and the dry land, and I will shake all nations, and the desire of all nations shall come, and I will fill this house with glory, saith the Most High of hosts. The silver is mine, and the gold is mine, saith the Most High of hosts. This glory of this latter house shall be greater than the former, saith the Most High of hosts. And in this place I will give peace, saith the Most High of hosts. Even though it might not appear evident to them, the Most High is guiding them, similar to how he guided the Israelites during their exodus from Egypt, Also, the message goes on to state that all the silver and gold on the earth belongs to the Most High, and he plans to gather it from all the nations or races or families, or whatever term you want to use, of the earth to construct the third and final temple, and that it will be superior when compared to Solomon's original temple. Also, a future day of peace for the Israelites is assured. Patience is required for this arrival. We just have to wait. So now let's go back to Matthew chapter 24, verse 2 and continue reading. And Yeshua said unto them, See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. And he sat on the Mount of Olives. The disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us when shall all these things be? And when shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? Yeshua tells his disciples that the second temple built during the time of Nehemiah and Ezra will be destroyed. So Peter, James, and John ask, what shall be 1, the signs of the temple being destroyed, 2, the sign of his coming, and 3, the end of the age or the end of the world. All 3 are in this chapter. They must be separated when reading Matthew chapter 24, Luke chapter 21, and Mark chapter 13. Which part of the chapter belong to the destruction of the temple? Which part has to do with Yeshua's coming? And which part has to do with the end of the fourth and final kingdom and the establishment of the Most High's kingdom, or the end of the age? Matthew 24, verse 7. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Then let him which is in Judea flee into the mountains, and let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. This entire section is about the destruction of the temple. You can't use these verses for now. This already happened. This period was fulfilled from the time of Christ's death, resurrection until 70 AD. After Christ's death and his resurrection, tensions between the Israelites that were in Rome and the Roman Empire escalated for numerous reasons. Flavius Josephus, an Israelite historian and military leader turned Roman collaborator, provides a detailed account of this period in his work. Vespasian initially sent to quell the rebellion, but he returned to Rome and became emperor, leaving the task of capturing Jerusalem to his son Titus. Vespasian's son Titus led the Roman forces in the siege and the destruction of Jerusalem. The Roman legions under Titus besieged the city, resulting in devastating famine, disease, and internal conflict among Israelite factions within the city. This is what we read earlier in Matthew chapter 24, verse 7. There shall be famines, pestilence, and earthquakes. After breaching the city's walls, Roman forces destroyed much of Jerusalem, including the Second Temple. The temple's treasures were taken to Rome as depicted on the Arch of Titus, which stands in Rome today. The war and other events led the migration of Israelites to parts of Europe, but mostly Africa, where they were gathered and sold as slaves throughout the world. The initial portion of Matthew 24 focuses on the destruction of the Third Temple, an event that unfolded during the conflicts of 70 AD. Yeshua cautioned his disciples about the impending war between the Israelites and the Romans. He instructed them that wars and rumors of wars would mark the start of challenging times and advised them to prepare to leave Jerusalem. He also warned when Jerusalem became encircled by armies, they should flee to the mountains. This war, forewarned by Yeshua, ultimately resulted in the historical diaspora, a significant prophecy reoccurring throughout the Bible as a future punishment for Israel for transgressing the laws of the Most High. Luke chapter 21, verse 9. When you shall hear wars and commotions, be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass. But the end is not by and by. And when ye shall see Jerusalem surrounded with armies, then you know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee into the mountains, and let them which are in the midst depart out. And let not them that are in the countries enter therein too. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and they shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. The concept of being taken captive into various nations referred to both the slave trade and the significant period called the Great Tribulation, when individuals, including preachers, claim that these events are yet to happen and are in the future. They are 100% wrong. Moreover, they are attempting to associate themselves with prophecies that are not relevant to them at all. And this is misleading and insincere towards those who have endured prolonged suffering and unimaginable injustices until today. Since these individuals truly wish to play a role in this narrative and desire to be a part of prophecy, their time to experience their part in this story is approaching. So now let's go back to Haggai chapter 2 verse 6 and read this again. We went over it just a few minutes ago. For thus saith the Most High of hosts, yet once in a little while I will shake the heavens and the earth and the sea and the dry land, and I will shake all nations, and the desire of all nations shall come, and I will fill this house with glory, saith the Most High of hosts. Then you compare that with Matthew 24 verse 29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. In Haggai, it says, I will shake the heavens and the earth. And then we connect that with Matthew, which says, the powers of heaven shall be shaken, and then shall the tribes or the families or the races, or whatever term you want to use, of the earth will mourn. And we connect that also with Jeremiah chapter 25 verse 29. For lo, I begin to bring evil on the city which is called by my name, and should you be utterly unpunished. Ye shall not be unpunished, for I will call for a sword upon all the inhabitants of the earth, saith the Most High of hosts. So if the Most High punished his own people, what do you think is going to happen to the people who are not his people? And then we also connect that with 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 17. For the time has come that the judgment must begin at the house of Elohim. And if it first begin at us, what shall be the end of them that obeyed not the gospel of Elohim? Peter echoes the message in Jeremiah, Matthew, and Haggai, which illustrates that if the Most High will punish his own people, it implies a judgment is impending for the rest of the world. So to sum this all up, Matthew chapter 24 verse 7, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places, cannot be used for future prophecy. This already happened in the year 70 AD. What has not happened yet is Matthew 24 verse 29, when it says, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken. These powers that shall be shaken is the impending World War III, which is to the intent of punishing the other nations. The Most High punished his own people. Now it's time for him to punish the other nations. Peter says, what shall be the end of them? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.